Alrighty, welcome back everybody. I'm Quincy and today we are going over Windows PowerShell module. That's part of the Security 101 pathway over in TryHackMe. It says we're going to discover the power in PowerShell and learn the basics. It is an easy module that's going to say about 60 minutes. I think we can get by it a little bit quicker. So go ahead and start up your attack box as well as go over here and start up the machine as well. So let's just start to kick off. Ahoy there. If you're here, you either heard the whispers of the marvels of PowerShell and want to discover more, or you've sailed from the first room of the command line module, the Windows command line, which we did earlier. So either way, you're about to embark on a journey to discover the marvels of this powerful shell, learn how to use it to uncover the secrets of any Windows system. Avast then on board. I love pirate themes. Let's get into it. Use PowerShell nearly every day. It is wonderful. So this is the second room in the command line module. It is an introductory room to PowerShell. The second, only historically command line utility built for the Windows operating system. So our learning objectives here, we're going to learn what PowerShell is and its capabilities. We're going to understand the basic structure of PowerShell's language. We're going to learn to run some basic PowerShell commands and understand PowerShell's many applications in the cybersecurity industry, because there's a lot. All right. For prereqs, it says you should understand the concepts of Windows NAD fundamentals module as well as Windows command line module. If you've been going through the learning path, you have done that. If not, don't worry. We're going to talk our way through this. I'm here to help guide you guys. So hopefully we'll get through it all in one piece. So there's a lot of reading in this one, by the way. From the official Microsoft page, PowerShell is a cross platform task automation solution made up of a command line shell, a scripting language, and a configuration management framework. So, just breaking that down, it's more than just a command line shell. It is its own scripting language, all right? You can run your own scripts in it. If you've ever seen anything in a PS1 format, that's PowerShell. People love to run their own scripts and everything in it, as well as configuration management network. So our friends over at the system administration side love to use it as well. So it is extremely powerful. And if you do work in a Windows environment, it is a very useful tool to know. If you're in the information security side of things, it's incredibly useful for our means and purposes as well. So PowerShell is a powerful tool from Microsoft designed for task automation and configuration management. It combines a command line interface and a scripting language built on the .NET framework. Unlike older text-based command line tools, PowerShell is object-oriented, which means it can handle complex data types and interact with system components more effectively. So object-oriented, if you've done anything in computer sciencey stuff, that term comes up, especially when you're learning programming for the first time, because Python, which is an amazing, programming language, is also object oriented. All right, so I'm not saying they're one for one, but if you can understand the methodology of how, like, if you have a background in Python, it does make learning PowerShell a bit easier. All right. So initially exclusive to Windows, PowerShell has lately expanded to support macOS and Linux, making it a versatile option for IT professionals across different operating systems. So that is true. You can use PowerShell for other operating systems, as well as if you are familiar in other scripting languages or command line formats, whatever. So like if you know Bash from Linux, then you can PowerShell can be enabled to also understand Bash commands as well. So all these command line interfaces, they're all getting more powerful and really making it easier for people in the modern world to utilize them. Um, we're not really going to go over a brief history of PowerShell. I believe you guys can read that. We are going to call we are going to read the power in PowerShell. So to fully grasp the power of PowerShell, you first need to understand what an object is in this context. So in programming, an object represents an item with properties, characteristics, and methods, which are actions. For example, a car object might have properties like its color, model, fuel level, and methods like drive, honk horn, refuel. Similarly, in PowerShell, objects are fundamental units that encapsulate data and functionality, making it easier to manage and manipulate information. An object in PowerShell can contain file names, usernames, or sizes of data, such as properties, and carry functions, methods, such as copying a file or stopping a process. The traditional command shell's basic commands are text-based, meaning that they process and output data as plain text. Instead, when a commandlet, so that's what this little abbreviation is, CMDLET, this commandlet, is run in PowerShell, it returns objects that retain their properties and methods. This allows for more powerful and flexible data manipulation since these objects do not require additional parsing of text. So we'll explore more about PowerShell's command lines and their capabilities in upcoming sections, so I won't go onto that right now. But we do have a question here, which is, what do you call the advanced approach used to develop PowerShell? Alrighty, so that is going to be object-oriented. So object tag oriented, boom, bada bing, bada bam. Let's go on to task 3, PowerShell basics. So before continuing on your PowerShell journey, let's connect to our lab environment. So you should have hit the start machine button as well as the attack box button. And we're going to go in on our attack box here, and we are going to use a client called Remina, Remina. All right. So we're going to use that. So we can go up here to applications. We can go to internet, this one, Remina. And we're going to SSH in with this. So if you are following along, once you start up your machine over here where it says target IP, it will gladly go ahead and put it in there for you. If not, you can scroll up to get that information. Here's your target IP up there. So once this keyring opens up, we hit cancel on this pop-up. Come on, you can do it. Not the fastest connection. All right. And over here, instead for RDP or VNC, we are going to be using SSH. And then we want to type in our IP that we want to go to. So for me, it's 10.10.123.74. Cool. Then I'm going to hit enter. And if this goes well, now I'll ask for my credentials. And right here on the left side of my screen are the credentials that I have for this session. So I'll type in captain. We have a password of Jolly Roger. We'll hit OK. All right. And if this connects properly, here we go. So this is what the PowerShell command line can look like. All right. So let's see. Launch your PowerShell. All right. I'm sorry. We're just SSH in right now. I am sorry. I jumped ahead a little bit. We need to actually run PowerShell. All right. So you can launch PowerShell in a whole bunch of different manners. If you're on your regular computer at home, you're probably just hitting start and going to PowerShell. Like if you have a Windows box, then it's there. You can always install and things like that. If you're at your enterprise, and if you do have, an IT role, you probably have PowerShell access. Maybe it's under an administrator account that's only available to use it, but if it's for your job duties, you probably have it. If you don't have that or whatever, you can follow along. Like for this, we're going to be using this command line interface right here, so we're going to only be operating in here. If you are at home or practicing in a different lab or whatever, there's tons of PowerShell practice kind of skills lessons and everything you can kind of go along with. There's different IDEs so that you can test out what you're going through, hit run the script line by line, and then see all the output as well, so you kind of get a better understanding of what you're doing. For the scope of this module right here, we will just be following along here. It's going to run us through a whole bunch of fun stuff, so let's keep on going. All right. So it says we can use start menu. You can use run dialog to do run, then PowerShell enter. You can do file explorer, navigate, type PowerShell, in task manager, run new task PowerShell, or here if we're in the command prompt, so that cmd.exe, if we type in PowerShell, which we did, then PowerShell launches. And a way to tell the difference is up here when we SSH'd, we have our username at the box that we're in. Then it has the directory that we got put in, which was the user's captain profile right there. Once we told to use PowerShell, obviously this says, okay, we launched PowerShell, blah, blah, blah. But it says PS here, which stands for PowerShell. All right. So if you look on the left side, their interface a PowerShell has a blue background. This is typically the default, and you can enable different visual cues to help you out when you are scripting or just running through regular commands in PowerShell. So as we can see through these examples, like this get command, it has orange and it has regular gray, it has white, it has light blue. And these are just ways that PowerShell has features to make your life a little bit easier while you're going through it. All right. So unfortunately, we're SSHing in. We don't have that right here, but later down the line, you'll see that. Don't be scared of all the different colors and everything. All right. So our basic syntax. As previously mentioned, PowerShell commands are known as commandlets. They are much more powerful than traditional Windows commands and allow for more advanced data manipulation. Commandlets follow a consistent verb-noun naming convention. This structure makes it easy to understand which commandlet does. So the verb describes the action and the noun specifies the object that the action will be performed on. For example, get content, which retrieves the content of a file and displays it in the console. So that's fairly good English right there of the verb is to get. What are we getting? We're getting the content. So the content's the object. Or set location. Again, the verb is set. What object? We want the location. So this changes the current working directory as opposed to normal, um, you know, terminal navigation or, where you're doing like CD. So instead for change directory, it speaks in fairly basic English of set your location. So set location. That's not to say you can't just use CD. You can use CD, but whatever suits you best. All right. So the basic commandlets to list all available commandlets, functions, aliases, and script that we can execute in the current PowerShell session, we can use the get command. So we're going to go ahead and type that out. Boom. Hey, what do you know? It's yellow. All right. So once we do that, it will take a moment. All right, so we have aliases, functions, and this is probably going to go on for a while. We can do command like export CSVs, export alias, keeps on going down and down and down and down. And some of these, if you're reading them, they're not just like regular commands, but they're, configuration pieces. So get appx package. So now we're talking about installing packages. Get your app locker policy. So that's kind of useful to know, what's the configuration of app locker on a machine. Maybe they have it where, I don't know, a certain directory is allowed for executables. So hey, go for it. That type of deal. Anyway, that is going to be a fairly long list. You can hit Control C to stop a command. So if some keeps running, Control C, and that's what this little icon looks like. This little red one that popped up. So cool. For each command info object received by the commandlet, some essential information properties are displayed on the console, and then it's possible to filter this list of commands based on the display properties value. So, for example, we want to display only the available commands of the type function. We can use tac command type space and then quotes function as shown below. So they have the get command, so regular verb object. Then we're going into the properties here. We want to display the command type, and then we're going to identify what command type that we want with function, okay? So now, once this returns it, we only have the command types that match the function that we identified, and it will go through and list all those. So we're talking about learning how to filter stuff. So that's pretty basic. You have a property, so it could be maybe file type, and maybe you're looking for a Word document, so maybe docx or exes, whatever it may be, and then you can filter as such. So it says we will learn more efficient ways to filter output from commandlets in the upcoming tasks. Another essential commandlet to keep in our tool belt is get help. It provides detailed information about commandlets, including usage, parameters, and examples, and it's a go-to commandlet for learning how to use PowerShell commands. This is extremely important. If there is honestly one thing to take away from this whole introductory to PowerShell module is understanding that you can type in get help and then whatever function that you're trying to go for, whatever commandlet you're trying to go for, and it will give you the syntax for it. It's its own little documentation for how to get around in PowerShell. So if you only get one thing from here, remember get help and then whatever your commandlet is. All right. That will get you very far because you'll be able to Google things. Hey, how do I do this in PowerShell? And they're going to give you out full commands and everything. And then if you want to actually tailor it for your own use, you might be curious as to what something's doing, and it will tell you, hey, get date. It gets the current time and date. Here's the syntax of how to do it. So here's all the properties that you can put. And then it has even more descriptions and some related links. So, and what's good is when they actually give you examples as well. So get help is extremely helpful. Who would have thought? Next up, we're talking about, let's see, get alias. So get alias will retrieve aliases for different commands or commandlets. And the reason why that is useful is, remember how earlier we said set location is how you can move directories? Well, you can do CD, change directory. So that's just an alias of it. You can do get constant, which if you remember when we went into terminal concatenate where it displays the value of like a file. So if it's a text file, you can read it like that. So instead of having to say get constant, you can go with cat. Now, neither one of these is wrong. Whatever is most comfortable to you. If it makes sense for you to do set location every single time to move to a new location while you're navigating in PowerShell, go for it. If you are more comfortable using CD, go for it. Whatever is most effective for you to use the tool is fairly accommodating. All right. So as long as it works for you, don't think that you explicitly must do it this one way or else it won't work. No, whatever works, make it happen. All right. Another good example, so like clear host is clear constant CLC, set location, CHDIR, so change directory, things like that. All right. Anyway, where to find and download commandlets. So another powerful feature of PowerShell is the possibility of exceeding its functionality by downloading additional commandlets from online repos. So please know that the commandlets listening section require a working internet connection to query online repositories. The attached machine doesn't have that, so you won't be able to do that here. But it if you are on your home computer or whatever, or an enterprise computer, there are tons of additional commandlets modules that are not part of the basic package, like the basic install, that depending on what your job is, you might want to install those. So if you're an Azure Intra AD admin, having the commandlet that lets you go through, administering Intra is very useful. And it enables you to do a lot of those admin configurations just right there, which by default it doesn't have. So you can make PowerShell become even better and more robust and tailored for whatever your use is. All right. Let's see. So we can find module to find whatever it is, and then we can install the module with install module, tag name, whatever the name of it is. It'll ask, hey, do you want to install it? Hit yes. If it's from an untrusted repository, it does give you a warning. If it's part of a trusted one, it doesn't necessarily do that. But anyway, let's answer these questions. All right, so how would you retrieve a list of commands that start with the verb remove? So for the sake of this question, avoid the use of quotes or quotations, single or double quotes in your answer. So we are trying to retrieve a list of commands that start with verb. This is object-oriented, it is fairly English-friendly. So what's another word for retrieving? Get. So we can do get tac. And what are we getting? We're getting a command, all right? And now, let me make this proper. There you go. We want to get a verb, or we want to get commands that start with the verb remove. So the last thing that we're probably going to be putting in is remove, but we need to identify what property remove actually is. So is, you know, Is it a name? Let's see, all these are names. Is it a version? Is it a source? What actually is it? All right. So in this case, we want to filter these out by the name. We're just gonna go with remove and then a wildcard. There we go. And the wildcard makes it so that we are not just finding um, commands with the name of remove. All right, the wildcard says everything after it, which translates into English of starts with remove. All right, now if it was in the front of it, ends with remove. All right, so wildcards are fairly useful to use, especially if you don't know specifically what you're looking for. All right, so what commandlet has its traditional counterpart as an alias? So if we remember, let's see, if we look at these aliases, let's go into get alias, and it's going to list all of our aliases. Might take a moment. All right, there we go. So now we have this good old list of all these. I'll see if I can just make this a little bit easier to see for you guys. All right, so we are looking for one that does echo. So luckily this is alphabetical. We're just gonna scroll up, scroll up, scroll up. Oh, went too far. All right, so echo is the alias for write output. All right, so let's go and put write output. There we go. And the third question is, what is a command to retrieve some example usage for the commandlet new local user? All right. So example usage, if we remember, that had to do with get help because get help gave us examples. So to see examples, type get help, the commandlet, tack examples. All right. So we're just going to copy that format. So we're going to do get help or get tack help space get blah blah. Where are we doing? New tack local user? Yeah. So let's do it like this. Get tack help. Then we're going to do new local user. And then we're going to do examples because that is just like that. And this should give us some examples of new local user usage. All right. So if you are struggling with what we just did, don't worry about it. It's a new tool. Practice makes perfect. We're just going over the fundamentals of this and kind of showing off what it can do. So this little basic one right here, though, the PowerShell Basics Task 3, I do think out of everything in this module is or I guess this room, it is the most important part because it's teaching you how to launch PowerShell. It's teaching you how to get help and get assistance with running through commandlets in PowerShell. All right. And it gave us our first introduction into hands-on. This is how you actually do things in PowerShell. All right. So we still have quite a few tasks, so we're going to keep on going. This one is navigating the file system and working with files. So we are going to speed up just a little bit because you guys already know how to navigate through file systems and working with files if you were part of the earlier rooms and whatnot. So similar to the dir command in command prompt, so the directory or ls in Unix like systems, get child item, list of files and directories in a specified location with the path parameter. So it wants us to do get child item, tack path documents. So like this one, that would show us all the items in documents. It does say if no path is specified, it will display the contents of the current working directory. So if we go over here and do this, so come on all the way down. So right now we're in the directory of the user profile of someone named Captain. All right. So if we do get child item, it should list everything that is in their folder, which if you know about Windows profiles. All these are fairly normal default ones. So you have your desktop, documents, downloads, favorites, links, music, pictures, save games, and videos. All those are fairly normal. If we do ls, it will say the directory and it will show us the exact same stuff. So working with aliases, whatever's most comfortable. I rarely use get child item. I will typically always use ls just because that's what I'm most comfortable with. All right. To change your location, so we will use set location for that. So set location, tac path, then wherever you want to go. All right. You can do the same thing with cd space wherever you want to go, but you don't need to put the tac path in that way. You can just do cd the directory as opposed to set location tac path directory. So each tool different ways, multiple ways to skin a cat here. Um, Let's see, to create an item, we can use new tac item. So over in these examples, we have new tac item. Then we have we're defining the path. So we want tac path, and we are saying we are making an item in the captain tac cabin / captain tac wardrobe. So it's going to make a file called captain wardrobe. And this item type, we are actually defining it here as a directory. So it's going to make a folder as called captain wardrobe. So instead for making a directory or doing, the old traditional CLI command to make a directory, in PowerShell, we can say new item, define that item type as a directory. And where this gets powerful for PowerShell is you can use that same exact syntax. So new item, path, we are now saying we want captain tac boots.txt, and the item type we're going to define as a file. So you don't need to know a different command in order to accomplish the goal of making a file, or I'm sorry, making an item. New item covers files, it covers directories, and more. So this is where knowing how to operate in PowerShell starts to, give a little bit more dividends. All right, the pool gets a little bit deeper, and you get a little bit more powerful using it. All right. Similarly, the remove item command can remove both directories and files, whereas Windows CLI have separate command of rmdir and del. So instead for two, you can get away with one. So we copy remove files and directories like using copy item, which is the same as copy, or move item, which is the same as move. So this one says copy item, it defines the path. It says captain hat is in the captain cabin directory, and our destination is actually going to be oh, I'm sorry, this is copying. I thought it was moving. So it is copying this Captain Hat text file, and its destination is in the same Captain Cabin directory, but its name is going to be Captain Hat 2.txt. All right, and then it does get child item, and it defines the path of that Captain Cabin directory. And as we can see here, we have a Captain Hat, the original, the Captain Hat 2, which is the copy. Their links are both 264. It is a copy of them. All right. And then it says finally to read and display the contents of a file, we can use the get content commandlet, which works similarly to the type command or cat in Unix systems. So right here, it if you noticed in this directory, there was a ship tac flag.txt. So they're going to get content, define the path for that, and it is a fun little hat in ASCII that says "Don't touch my hat." All right. So we have 3 questions. All right. The first one: what commandlet can you use instead of the traditional Windows command type? All right. So remember, type is displaying the contents of a file, and we just went over it. It is get content. Ooh. All right. Next, what PowerShell command would you use to display the contents of C/users directory? For the sake of the question, avoid use of quotes. And they're they're defining that. So if you are using PowerShell, and if you or really any command line interface, if there's a space in the naming convention, so like let's say the you made a file, or you made a directory called captain space cabin, That means if you're referring to it, like if you're identifying the path here, it needs to have quotes, or else it's going to parse that information, stop at captain because there's a space, and think that cabin is something else. So it won't read it as one coherent thing because it's a space. Um, you can use quotes all the time just as a habit to do it, but as for these TryHackMe answers, it keeps reiterating, hey, don't use them, don't worry about it. All right, so let's actually focus on this. We want to display the contents of this directory, right? So uh, we are going to do get child item. We are going to define where it's at with path. We're going to say C users. So how we did that is up here at the very beginning, um, to list files and directories. We use get child item, and we just had to define it with path. All right. So we have the, what is it? Verb, object, property, actually where you want to go. All right. And how many items are displayed by the command described in the previous question? So let's go ahead and type that out. So get child item, path. See, by habit, I was already about to just use quotes there, but you don't need to. All right, and we need to count. So we have administrator, we have captain, we have pirate in like leet speak. There's and public. So we have 4 items displayed there. And if we're talking about normal windows, typically we'll have an administrator as well as a public, and these are 2 users. So we have captain, which that's the user that we are already in their directory. As we can see here, we're in C users captain, but we do have this interesting pirate one. So we're probably going to be dipping into that, see what's in there. So that was task 4. It's already been half an hour. I hope you guys are staying with me through this. We're about, well, technically halfway done through this, so it might actually take that hour. If, again, you can pause this video if you need to, just come back. You can skip to whatever section you actually that's actually useful to you. But I do appreciate whoever is watching this going through and listening to me just ramble on about this. So we're in task 5, which is talking about piping, filtering, and storing data. So piping, which is this guy right here on your keyboard, it's shift backspace. It's usually right above your enter key. It's the weird vertical line. All right. So piping is a technique used in command line environments that allows the output of one command to be used as the input for another. All right. So it's a linking commands. Um, so this creates a sequence operation where the data flows from one command to the next, represented by the piping symbol. Piping is widely used in the Windows CLI, as introduced earlier in this module, as well as Unix-based shells. It's useful in pretty much all of them. All right. I haven't ran into a time where I couldn't use that. So in PowerShell, piping is even more powerful because it passes objects rather than just text. These objects carry not only the data, but also the properties and methods that describe and interact with the data. So for example, if you want to get a list of files in a directory and then sort them by size, you could use the following command. So to get the list of files, we're using get child item. Then we're gonna do space pipe, space sort object, and then length. All right, so we have 2 different commandlets. We have get child item and we have sort object. The pipe is having the information from get child item be passed on to the sort object, where then we want to filter it or sort it by the length. And all that's going to do is it will then say, all right, from smallest to largest. So that's what the length here is. We are going to display the documents in this directory, which is captain documents, captain cabin, so the captain's cabins documents, where he has his hat, his boots, and his ship flags. So ship flag is definitely the biggest. It was that ASCII one. All right. So boom, boom, boom. We kind of just explained that. Let's see. So in the example above, we leverage the sort object commandlet to sort objects based on specified properties. Beyond sorting, PowerShell provides a set of commandlets that, when combined with piping, allow for advanced data manipulation and analysis. So to filter objects based on specified conditions, or showing those that only meet criteria, we can use the where object commandlet. So for instance, so this only txt files in directory, we can use this. Pay attention to this one, all right? If it's in your notes, this is one of those good ones to have. So we're gonna do get child item. So we're gonna get pipe where object. The property is going to be the extension, and then we're going to use attack eq here. So equals, and we want it to be txt. So .txt in quotes. All right. So then it's going to only display all the child items. So all the objects, items, wherever it may be, um, that are txts. So again, if you're looking for executables, if you're looking for DLLs, if you're looking for specific file types, you can sort by extension. All right. And then we just use EQ right there, which is equals to. You can use NE, which is not equal, GT greater than, GE greater than or equal to, LT less than, LE is less than or equal to. All this is useful information. Majority of the time when I'm using it, I am looking for equals because I have a particular item in mind or a particular goal, some sort of characteristic that I'm going for that I am looking for. So all these other ones are useful to use. It just depends on your use case and what you're actually doing for it. So here's another example. So this one uses tag like. So that will find kind of like contains, so very similar thing. So we have get child item where object property. The name is like ship asterisk. So if you know that the file name contains a word, maybe it's a username, maybe it's a date or something of that sort, just depending on what the file nomenclature is. You can put one information that you do know, because you don't want to just put ship, because it might not then list everything. But if you have ship wildcard, then you're saying everything that is after it. So ship needs to come beforehand. I'm thinking about what I just said. Rewind that. You can put like ship. It will list all of them that contain similar to like. But if you're looking for things with ship in the front, you want that wildcard. So depending on what the directory is, um, like you can use PowerShell for full environment. So knowing how to specifically tailor what you're looking for into specifics is always good and concise. If you're just looking through like somebody's downloads folder and they only have, 60 entries in there, regardless, yeah, like probably don't need to get that granular. But it is good knowledge to have and good skills to build upon. All right. So the next filtering commandlet is select object, and it's used to select specific properties from objects or limit the number of objects returned. So it's useful for refining the output to show only the details one needs. So in this case, get child item, pipe, select object, name / length. So this is getting rid of things like last write time and all these additional properties that you might not care about. So like mode, maybe you don't care about that. Maybe all that you care about is the name and maybe date or something like that. All right. So this way we have identified name and length. So all that we care about is the name and the length of it. So the commandlets pipeline can be extended by adding more commands, as the feature is in them is just piping between two commandlets. As an exercise is try to build a pipeline of commandlets to sort and filter the output with the goal of displaying the largest file in the C users captain's document, captain cabin directory. Blah, that is a mouthful. All right. We're at 40 minutes. We're just gonna go ahead and click it. All right, take a moment, think about it. What would it be? But we're getting the child item. We're sorting the object by length. We're saying it's descending. Then we're piping it again. Select object. Tag first one. I'm not expecting you guys to know every single one of those, like the available properties. If you guys can walk away from this of understanding that it can do that, and all that you need to do is do a little bit of Google foo and talk your way through what you're trying to do, and that usually helps out when you're trying to parse together these longer commands. So like in this case, so it says displaying the largest file. So all right, we need to get them with get child items. We're sorting these objects by their length because we're looking for the largest one. So we're going to say descending, and then because we only want one object, we're selecting object, and it's tack first and then one. All right. Like I would have had to Google what the tack first or gone in to get help and said, okay, this is what I'm looking for. But it's good to know that it can do that. All right. So the last set of filtering commandlets is select string. This commandlet searches for text patterns within files similar to grep in Unix-based systems, or find str in the command or in the Windows command prompt. It's commonly used for finding specific content within log files or documents. It's pretty important. So how to do that? We'll use select text string, the path. If if you're getting annoyed at seeing like this verb, object, path, what is it? All right. That's the meat and potatoes here. All right. If you can remember this, you're going to go far. All right. So select screen, tack path. Where are we looking? We're looking for the captain's hat .txt. What are we looking for? So tack pattern, we want a match that says hat. All right. So this says in the captain hat txt on line 8, it says don't touch my hat. If you remember what that file was, it was the ASCII rendition of the word hat. So we probably have 7 lines that are making the diagram that shows hat, but on the 8th line is that line that says don't touch my hat. All right. Whew. The select string commandlet fully supports use of regular expressions, so regex. This advanced feature allows for complex pattern matching within files, making it a powerful tool for searching and analyzing text data. All right, so the question here is, how would you retrieve items in the current directory with a size greater than 100? For the sake of question, avoid the use of quotes or ors in your answer. So go ahead and think about that for a moment. If you need to, scroll up as well, and you can look and be like, okay, well, what we say? Greater than. So we probably are going to be using greater than over here in this. All right, so current directory, we're going to get child item. We're using a pipe because we're taking that information and we're going to start sorting it. All right, so we want where this object, the property of it is going to be the length because we're talking about size. So just like, let's see, boom. So we're doing sorting by length there. I know we did an early one here where we're sorting by length. So we're doing get child item text or sort object by length. This time we're doing where object. All right. And what we're going to do here is we are going to say greater than. So tack GT for greater than, and it's greater than 100 because that's what's asking for. So when you're when you're going through PowerShell commands, especially piped kind of longer commands and things, just talking it out. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the whole, having the rubber ducky on your desk. And that way, when you run into a problem, you explain what's going on to the rubber ducky. And that seems to help a lot. Kind of same thing here, right? It's what exactly is this even asking for? Okay, let's break it down into English. Let's find applicable commandlets or properties that match to what is actually being asked here. All right. Whew. All right, we're on task 6, which is system and network information. So PowerShell was created to address a growing need for powerful automation and management tools to help system administrators and IT professionals. As such, it offers a range of commandlets that allows a retrieval of detailed information about system configuration and network settings. The Get Computer Info commandlet receives comprehensive system information, including the OS, hardware specific. So we're just going to go ahead and run that so we can show you. All right. If I could spell, that would be pretty sweet. So get tac computer info, it tells you useful information about the computer. All right. And it will say It honestly, it does give you more information than system info would. So using PowerShell to get it is it's pretty good. All right, I'll just leave that. It's pretty good. So in this example, you can see we have a Windows Server 2022 data center version. In this one that we are over here, let's see, boom, boom, boom. We are Windows Server 2022 data center, and actually, really quick. All right, all right. So we have a little bit. I'm just making sure it wasn't gonna ask something that's on right now because then I didn't want to go back and forth. All right, so get computer info. Very, very useful for gain information about the computer. Well, let's talk about users. What information can we get about users? So if we do get local user, it'll list all the local accounts on the system. It will say like the account status, the description. So we have names here. We have is it enabled. So here the default account is disabled, the guest account is disabled, and the WDAG utility account is disabled. All right. But what is enabled is administrator, captain, as well as that weird pirate one. All right. And then we have descriptions. Most of these are fairly bare bones. Captain has a fun one that says the beloved captain of this pirate ship, and then you have pirate that says a merry life and a short one. All right. We can also get network information using get net IP configuration. Also, if you're on your actual computer, you can always hit tab in the middle of of typing out your commandlet, and it should fill it out for you. Just because we're using the attack box here, it's kind of hit or miss. Just it's not the most robust virtual machine in terms of power, but then again, you know, there's so many people using TryHackMe, they don't want to waste resources. It's fine the way that is. Just know your computer can easily handle the little shortcuts and things. So if we look here, get net IP configuration is kind of like ipconfig, where we're getting that DNS server with IPv4 address if there's an IPv6. It doesn't give as much as like ipconfig/all, but it is giving pretty much that information for like normal IP config. All right. Next, we do have this one, which is get net IP address. So this will show information about each one of the network interfaces. So now we're getting some good networking information right here. So this is your IPv6 address. This is on Ethernet. So if you want to know more information, PowerShell will get you that information. All right. And it says here it's useful for IT professionals. You can make it so that, like, because it can also run a script, you can create essentially a script that will ask for the status of all this information from computers, and then have that just run through like a CSV that lists a whole bunch of computers. So you don't have to manually go into each one of these. You can just tell go through all this and then output it into a report for me. So PowerShell, it gets better and better and better and better the more that you use it. All right. So I won't go down that hole. We're almost at an hour already. So let's go ahead and answer these questions. Other than your current user and default administrator account, what is the other user enabled on the target machine? If you remember, that was that pirate one. So let's go ahead and scroll up because it is spelled in NeetSpeak. So P1R4T3. All right, so the next one, this lad has hidden his account amongst the others with no regard for our beloved captain. What is the motto he has so bluntly put as his account's description? And that's going to be a merry life and a short one. All right, now a small challenge to put it all together. This shady lad we just found hidden among the local users has his own folder in the C users directory. Can you navigate the file system and find the hidden treasure inside this pirate's home? All right. So we need to change our directory that we're currently at from C users captain to that C users bu- 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 pirate guy. So let's go ahead and try that. I am simply going to use CD. You can set location, do all that. I'm going to do with what is most comfortable for me. So that was P1. So in that case, tab worked. All right. So bam, we're in it. I want to see what's here. I'm going to use LS. And we have a hidden treasure chest. All right. So I'm going to do, actually, that's not a file, that's another directory. So I'm going to CD into there like that. All right, ls, what's in here? Big treasure, there we go. So cat, big treasure. All right, and here we have a little shell right here with 3 initials. And our flag right there is going to be TryHackMe P3. It's Perl in the shell, but leet speak. All right, so boom. There we go. All right, so that was just navigating through and kind of using what we learned before to get there. So even though it's system and network information, we use the system information to determine that there was an additional user on the machine. So then we use the skills from navigating the file system, working with files, in order to navigate through their directory and see what was in one of their files. All right. All right, task 7, real-time system analysis. So to gather more advanced information system, especially considering the dynamic aspects like running processes, services, and active network connections, we can leverage a set of commandlets that go beyond static machine details. So get process provides a detailed view of all currently running processes, including the CPU and memory usage, making it a powerful tool for monitoring and troubleshooting. So let's go ahead and run get process, and it's most likely going to list more than than just this. There's a ton of processes, so we are going to control C that and just say okay. Oh, we're too late. So we do have a good amount of them. Similarly, you could do get service to show the services. All right, we're not going to go through there. There's going to be a lot of services running. Um, to monitor active network connections, we can use get net TCP connections. So for talking about networking, we are identifying the TCP connections, not the UDP ones here. So this will display current TCP connections, giving insights both local and remote endpoints. This command is particularly handy during an incident response or malware analysis task, as it can uncover hidden backdoors or establish connections towards an attacker-controlled server. That is true. Hopefully, if you are in an enterprise environment, you have additional tools to assist you in this and you're not solely relying on PowerShell log, PowerShell capabilities to see that. But if you are, it is a great tool to have in your tool set. All right. So in this case, it does the get net TCP connections. We can see the local address, what port sites running on, where it's talking to, um, on which port it is talking, and is it in a listening state, time wait, establish internet. So let's see, owning process, so what started. Additionally, we're going to mention get file hash, which is good for getting the actual hashes of the actual hashes of files, which you do use in information security to validate the integrity of whatever file that you want to make sure it's still good to go. You by default it should do SHA-256. You can change that if you do TAC algorithm and maybe it's 75, whatever it may be. Just know you can change that. So this is a useful one, at least in the cybersecurity, information security industry. It is a quick way to get file hashes. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the questions here. In the previous task, you found a marvelous treasure carefully hidden in the target machine. What was the hash of the file that contains it? All right, so what we want to do is, all right, for this big treasure.txt file, we want to get the file hash of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do get file hash path. We're going to say dot backslash big treasure.txt. We're going to hit enter. It's going to give us that SHA-256 right here. And here's the hash. All right. So we're going to copy that. Let's see. Copy. We're going to paste that over here. There you go. All right. So finding hashes is not it's not a difficult thing. It's a useful thing to know how to do. Just remember, get file hash and identify where it's at. All right. Now, what property retrieved by the default GetNet TCP connection contains information about the processes that started the connection? So we can go ahead and run that. You can also look at the example earlier. I don't have enough space here to show it. All right, that's annoying. All right, we're just gonna scroll up. All right, on GetNet TCP connection, what it's talking about is the owning process here. So, pretty much like the parent PID. That's what that is. It says which process started that connection. So hopefully you can open up Task Manager or even use PowerShell to identify what that is. So you can say, okay, this is good. Or if you see, an established internet connection and the knowing process is something that you're like, I have no clue what that is. Well, maybe there's big old giant red flag for you right there. So let's go ahead and put owning process. Move on. All right. So it's time for another small challenge. Some file service has been installed on this pirate ship to guarantee that the captain can always navigate safely. But something isn't working as expected. The captain wonders why. Investigating, they find out the truth. At last, the service has been tampered with. The shady lad from before has modified the service display name to reflect his very own motto, the same one that he puts as his user description. So if you remember what that one is, it's that something about his life, blah, blah, blah. So with this information and PowerShell knowledge that you have built so far, can you find the service name? So we want to display the services. And to do that, we do get service. So let's go ahead and get service like that. All right. And as we go through, it's already going to display the description for us. So that's helpful. So let's just scroll through these and try to find one that has been modified with, there we go. Oh, where'd it go? This one right here, a merry life and a short one. So this service that is currently running is called, let's see, P1R4T3 TAC S TAC Compass. So maybe the original service was called Compass, and he took full ownership of it. He put his username on there. He changed the description. He said, I want you to know it was me. All right. That's kind of funny. All right. Ooh, last full task right here. All right. We're coming up on an hour. We got this. All right, people. So scripting. Scripting is the process of writing and executing a series of commands contained in a text file. That text file is known as a script. To automate tasks that one would generally perform manually in a shell like PowerShell. So simply speaking, scripting is like giving the computer a to-do list where each line in the script is a task that the computer will carry out automatically. This saves time, reduces the chance of errors, and allows you to perform tasks that are too complex or too tedious to do manually. As you learn more about shells and scripting, you'll discover that scripts can be powerful tools for managing systems, processing data, and much more. Learning scripting with PowerShell goes beyond the scope of this room. Nonetheless, we must understand that it's power that makes it a crucial skill across all cybersecurity roles. I love that they're identifying this. If you want to get better at PowerShell, there are many great ways to do it, whether it's going through and doing additional rooms, but if it's specifically about scripting, all right, at least not in the Security 101 track. You're not going to learn how to be the best PowerShell scripter, okay? You just aren't. Um, what I always learned, being coming from the administrative side of the house, was there's a book called PowerShell in like 30 lunches or something like that. And the whole premise of it is during your lunch hour, you go through and do different exercises in PowerShell. There are YouTube series where people have all that content already for free out there, so you don't need to read a book during your lunch. You can just practice what it's asking, and it's just building up on fundamentals so that you are comfortable with PowerShell and you're thinking the way that you need to in order for it to interact. Now, the caveat of that is when I read the book, it was already kind of old. All right. PowerShell has been updated. It is more powerful, it's more robust now. I recommend going out on YouTube, going to the internet, going to Microsoft Learn, whatever it may be, to get more relevant modern information about PowerShell scripting, and then just testing it out either in a sandbox or in your home lab and tinkering with PowerShell, breaking stuff, learning how to do it. That's my side tangent on PowerShell scripting. Okay, it is a wonderful skill to have if you're interacting with the Windows environment, which most enterprises of the world honestly deal with. All right. So it breaks it down into saying for blue team professionals such as incident responders, malware analysis, threat hunters, PowerShell scripts can automate many different tasks, including log analysis, detecting anomalies, and extracting indicators of compromise known as IOCs. These scripts can also be used to reverse engineer malicious code, such as malware, or automate the scanning of systems for signs of intrusion. All that's completely true. I I see that in my workplace. All right. For the red team, including penetration testers and ethical hackers. Oh, excuse me. PowerShell scripts can automate tasks like system enumeration, executing remote commands, and crafting obfuscated scripts to bypass defenses. Its deep integration with all type system makes it a powerful tools for simulating attacks and testing systems resilience against real world threats. So it mentioned obfuscated scripts. One thing that PowerShell can do is it can run encoded scripts. So you can have a script, encode it, let's say like base 64, and then have it run. Okay, so a normal person going through trying to parse through logs, it's just additional steps to get to figure out what actually is going on. But PowerShell don't care because PowerShell is like, hey, I'm good on this. All right. So it is useful for offense. It's useful for defense. And it's useful for the day-to-day system administrators that use it to update and maintain the systems. All right. So staying in the context of cybersecurity, system administrators benefit from PowerShell scripting for automating integrity checks, managing system configurations, securing networks, especially in remote or large-scale environments. PowerShell scripts can be designed to enforce security policies, monitor system health, and respond automatically to security incidents, thus enhancing the overall security posture. So whether used defensively or offensively, PowerShell scripting is an essential capability in a cybersecurity toolkit. Before concluding this task about scripting, we can't go without mentioning the invoke commandlet. Invoke command is essentially for executing commands on remote systems, making it fundamental for system administrators, security engineers, and penetration testers. Invoke command enables efficient remote management, and combining it with scripting, automation, and tasks across multiple machines, it can also be used to execute payloads or commands on target systems during an engagement by penetration testers or attackers alike. So let's discover some examples by using git help. So if we look at git help invoke command, we have the name invoke command, synopsis, it runs commands on local and remote computers. So how to do it, you would say invoke command. Uh, this is identifying, so this is running a script on a server. So we want to invoke the command. We're going to identify which file to actually run. So file path, we identify it as test.ps1. That is typically your PowerShell format. And then we're going to say where to run it at. So tat computer name server one. All right. So this is going to run that script on server one. Now, if we are going to run it on a remote server, so we're doing, again, invoke command, computer name server one, credentials. So we need to give it credentials to say we're good to run this executable or this script right here. So we're going to do that. So we're going to give it domain. So we identify the domain, /user. So it might be yours, it might be a service account, it might be an administrative account, whatever it may be. And then we're going to say script block, and then in brackets, this has get culture. So this is going to run get culture script on server 1 using user 1's credentials. All right. Yep. All right. So it explained all that there. I guess I should just have read a little bit more. All right. So the first two examples provided by the Get Help examples page report our nuts to grasp the simplicity and power of the invoke commandlet. The first example shows how it can very easily be combined with any custom script to automate tasks on remote computers. So that is that test.ps1. That's just a custom PowerShell script. Who knows what it could be saying? It could just be gaining network information. It could be telling it's download an update. Who knows? All right. The second one demonstrates how we don't need to know how the script to benefit from the power of invoke command. In fact, by appending the script block a parameter to the commandlet syntax, we can execute any command or sequence of commands on the remote computer. The result will be the same as if we were typing commands in a local PowerShell session on the remote computer itself. So our final question here for task 8. What is the syntax to execute the get service command on a remote computer named Royal Fortune? Assume you don't need to provide credentials to establish connection, so we're not doing the username, blah, 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 or the domain. And for the sake of this question, avoid the use of quotes in your answer. All right, so first thing we're going to do, this whole thing's about invoke command. So we're going to start with invoke command. We know the computer's name is Royal Fortune, so we're going to say computer name, so tap computer name. Over here, we're going to put the computer name that we want of Royal Fortune. Next, we are going to put in a script block so that we can run get service on it. And let's see, does it close it? Let's see. Let's see if it likes that. There we go. All right. I don't have much to say there. We already explained it. You don't need to get it quickly. If it takes you longer to get it, don't worry about it. If you have questions about how we got that, reread this area right here about the invoke command. These are the two syntaxes that, quite frankly, this first one, where it's a file path to a script, typically I combine these a lot, so I won't use script block typically. I will instead have file path identifying an actual script that I want to run, and then I'll identify the computer name. I will pass credentials so that in proper logging it will show, hey, yep, I did that. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. It's been over an hour. We're on task 9, the conclusion. Well done, mateys. You successfully navigated the treacherous waters of PowerShell, uncovering hidden treasures and elusive services aboard the Black Pearl. With these tools in your belt, you're well equipped to explore even the most guarded corners of any Windows system. Remember, a true pirate never stops seeking treasure, so keep honing your skills. Who knows what pearls you might discover in your next adventure. Until then, may your commandlets be sharp and your script swift. Fair winds and happy hunting. To continue building up our command line skills, proceed to the Linux command line room, which is up next in the module. We're going to hit complete. Congratulations on completing Windows PowerShell. Thank you all for joining me in this. All right, hopefully it helped you out. If you have questions about it, please leave it in the comments. I'm actually liking that now, where in videos people say, hey, I got stuck on this. What's up with that? And